Okay, I got everything set up correctly. So I want to just respond to chat before I start up the game because, you know, as usual, I like listening to the opening. And I have, you know, I'll look into if there's a way to replay the opening after you've started the game. I'm not sure there is, so. But anyway, thank you for being here on silent, although you may not be able to hear me say that, but actually, you know, I'm going to type in the broadcaster. Let me go turn it on, but I think I actually have captions working, maybe. Hello? Yes, it looks like it's working. Okay, so I'm gonna type that. I think I might actually have captions working this time, if you'd like. Boo, boo, boo. And to my sister, we are doing something kind of nice for Valentine's Day. We're just, you know, doing a little dinner at home, and I happened to be out today because I had a podiatry appointment, and it was across the street from a fancy little grocery store that has fancy stuff. And I actually couldn't get back to the podiatry appointment because I want to talk about that too. But let me make sure I didn't. Yeah, okay. And while I was there, I picked up. They had like freshly made pasta and fancy sauces pre-made and stuff. So I got some fresh pasta and puttanesca sauce, tomato sauce, and a thing of polenta. And we also have some leftover like fancy highly marbled it's washugyu, which is like wagyu, but it's like an Americanized brand short rib, and so we're going to add that to the puttanesca just because I have it and we need to use it. But like, so we're gonna have a fancy little home cooked Italian meal. Well, okay, I don't think it counts as home cooked when I did buy it all pre-made at a store, but it will be like home cooked because it's all fancy. You have to make fresh pasta this week for father-in-law. Fair enough. Fresh pasta's fun. The pasta machine, the pasta making thing we have that makes it into the noodles, is just really hard to clean, so we kind of don't use it that often. But like, you know, someday we should go back and make fresh pasta again. But yeah, it does sound lovely, doesn't it? I'm proud of myself. If I hadn't gone out and gotten like the fresh pasta thing, we would have done basically the same thing, just done a nice meal. We just probably would have done like stir fry with the kalbi short rib because I already had it. But yeah, so we're gonna have a nice little fancy meal at home, and we're probably gonna just, you know, catch up on TV shows we're watching and, you know, have some quality time. It is such a pain to use and clean. All right, thanks for sticking with me, and I'm gonna pull up the game and so we can watch the opening. And I don't want to talk too actively over the opening. Oh, I did forget about my podiatry appointment. I say, remembering because the avatar for the game is a foot. I think I mentioned to people that I was having some foot pain. Thankfully, I had what seems to be the least bad foot injury you can get. It was like a capillary issue, so it's already mostly healed. So foot problems pretty much resolved. All right, game showing up over here. There we go. Oh, you're getting french fries and dessert. Nice. I must say, I'm very pleased that Valentine's Day fell on a Monday, so I was doing my Otome game stream on Valentine's. This feels seasonally appropriate. But yes, so we shall. As we get later in the chapters, there are more like actual romance scenes and stuff, and plus, it sounded like this was going to be a good chapter for that sort of side character romance with Jurian and Garland, which I'm also pretty excited about. So we're already like, this will be like, I guess last time was the halfway point of Karma's route, so We're a little past the halfway point. There are 10 chapters. One of those chapters is a prologue, and I've decided that I'm going to go through all 5. Sorry, I just realized I turned around and that my mic is actually forward facing. Yes, so I'm going to start back at the prologue for every route. So essentially it's 11 chapters, including the prologue. Though chapter 2 is really short and chapter 1 is really long, so then again, I think I think I'm gonna handle that by, like, finding a good split point in chapter 1 and just having one day be chapter 1 and another day be the second half of chapter 1 and chapter 2. I'll figure that out later, though. But yes, so each route is a total of 10 chapters. Not inclusive of the prologue, so arguably 11. And I'm making a point to do 1 chapter a week, so at this rate, I'll be finished with this game and all 5 runs in roughly October, I think? So, we got a while to go on this. But that's okay, because I'm loving the game and I'm happy to have this running for a long time. And then I will, like, continue on the trend of visual novel romance games. I think I've mentioned this once or twice, but once I'm done with it, it's, you know, obviously it's a ways out before I'll be done with this one, but once I am, I'm hoping to move on to Code Realize, which is a pretty well-known otome game, and, like, supposed to be one of the best, and I haven't played it, so I'm excited to try it on stream. Aw, thanks, 6 Card, you're happy that I'm happy. And hello, Ice Starmie! I was just talking about how I've got a while to go in Cinderella Phenomenon. I'm very excited for how long I've got going with this, and how I'm excited to be playing the game on Valentine's Day, because that's just fun. Alright, and you know, hello everyone, and thank you so much for being here. This is exciting. Alright, let's see. Continue, and there it is. Chapter 6. And then there was this thing I need to go back. Okay. Chapter 6. Matchmaking. That title makes me very hopeful that we'll get some good Jurian and Garland content in this one. Aw, thanks, John. Yes, I'm also glad that my foot is on the mend. I am gonna tentatively maybe even start back up with the ring fit with doing just avoiding any exercises that have foot impact, so. Alright. So I think this is a flashback to a previous thing. So, Karma. You really are a handful. But a delightful handful. I love that, actually. That's a very sweet line. Like, you're a handful, but a delightful handful. I like to think that I am a delightful handful. I'm pretty sure that my spouse would agree. Too bad you can't do Beat Saber with me. Fair enough. I don't really have a VR set, so. Yes, with this chapter title, no doubt there will be Jurian X Garland in the chapter. Yay. Yes, good. Alright, so Lucette thinking to herself. His words keep repeating in my head. I cannot stop hearing his voice and feeling his lips on my hand. Oh my. Oh wait, hey, I have a sound effect for that.
Oh my.
So yes, so she's definitely started to be romantically conscious of Karma. So that's also fun. My face feels warm, and every time I think about his words, my heartbeat feels unsteady. Lucette thinking to herself. I really have to stop thinking about that. Karma is Karma, and he puts on that overly polite act with everyone. But then, I am pretty sure I have never seen him do something like that with another person. Silence. I'll just go downstairs and stop thinking about all of this. I need to tell Parfait and Delora what happened. Because of the time I'd returned to the Marchand yesterday, I never spoke to anyone about what had happened. Thinking to herself. Maybe someone's downstairs. Someone usually is. I leave my room and make my way downstairs to the reception. It is quiet when I enter, but not as silent as I thought it would be. Karma is sitting at one of the tables, speaking quietly with Parfait and Delora. His injured hand is sitting on the table, bandaged. I cannot help but stare at it, my heart plummeting. Thinking to herself, his injury is my fault. Yeah. Sorry, just getting a head pillow for comfort. Delora. So, you have yet to hear the entire story? Karma. No, I'm afraid I'm not quite privy to the information Waltz has. Is that correct? Perfect. Waltz has been directly involved in this far longer than you have. I suspected that that might be the case, but I'm sure we will not. There is still a long way till we'll find out too much more about Waltz. But Waltz has been directly involved with this in this far longer than you have is an interesting tidbit of information. Lucette, out loud. What about Waltz? Parfait, shocked. Delora. Princess, you're up early. They all turn to me to look at me as I stand at the table. Karma looks tired and is not in his dress. He looks somber, but he still smiles at me. Karma. Lucette, how nice of you to join us. Lucette, thinking to herself. When did he start saying my name without my title? Delora. Lucette, you've run into a lot of different mishaps this week, haven't you? I thought you'd be stubbornly avoiding work. Instead, you go out of your way to get yourself into trouble. Oh, that's why Waltz is the true/truth route. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, his route is clearly the okay, and now you actually get to find out everything route, which, yes, is I know I just described the definition of a true route, but for anyone who might not be familiar with the structure of otome games, like, I'm playing these, a lot of times there's a specific route order that, like, you reveal more and more of the plot as the time goes on, and then you go through all of the initial love interest routes, and then one of them is the true route, which is the one that reveals usually most about the plot, and is, like, gives you sort of the most cohesive conclusion to the story. Although Rod's route will always be my canon, since Lucette, Rod is my OTP. That's fair. Like, you know, like, just because it is the true route from the game designer perspective, I think that, you know, your own personal true route can be whichever love interest you like best. Like, I am really looking forward to Fritz's route because that's the trope I really like, and so I think that, I mean, I'll see how it goes, obviously, but, like, I think there is a very good chance that, Lucette and Fritz could end up being my OTP of the game, so yeah, totally. And like, to be fair, Rod and Lucette are adorable, so like I can totally understand how you got there, so. Alright. Lucette. This involves me directly. How would I not be curious? Delora. You've also been irresponsible, sneaking out without any of us knowing? Lucette. I have the freedom to do whatever I want to. I even wore a cloak to... Lucette, thinking to herself. Oh no, the cloak. I left it at the bar. I feel a nudge at my arm, and Karma is holding out my cloak with a tired smile. Lucette, shocked. You went back to get this? When? Karma. Yesterday, when you were still in bed. Parfait. You've been running yourself dry these last few days, Karma. Karma. It's nothing. Lucette. Thank you. Delora. Shocked. What's this? Our ice princess is thanking someone. Lucette, thinking to herself. Why is that something so strange? Karma. Oh, come now, she's not so icy. Lucette is more fire than anything. She's filled with unbridled passion and confidence. Okay, that's very sweet. I like that. Like, I like that. It's like, you know, this is sorry. this route was not, like, Karma and Lucette was not grabbing me early in the route, but, you know, in some ways kind of like with Rod and Lucette, although Rod and Lucette, I think, latched on more. Like, I'm definitely coming around to, like, as they're starting to get more and more, like, cuteness together, I am coming around to Karma and Lucette being cute as well. All right. I'm glad you agree Lucette and Rod are adorable, but as for Fritz, do you like roller coasters? Because Fritz's route is a roller coaster. Yeah, I can see that, especially with my suspicions about Varg. Yeah, alright, well, I will try to prepare myself for that. But yeah, I think Karma is absolutely correct here, and I also think it's sweet that he notices that about her, like that he's come to perceive her that way, because I think it's a more accurate descriptor. Like, I understand why people think she's icy because she's all closed off from most people, but like at her core, I wholeheartedly agree she's much more fire than ice. Like, her true self, I'd say, is like, you know, she was sort of, that was trained out of her and she was taught to be icy, but oh, the good news is that Fritz's route also has many important revelations. Okay, that will also be cool to look forward to. But yeah, like, you know, I don't know, I think that's cool. Like, I think that, yeah, that's a really positive view of Lucette that I can get behind. Lucette thinking to herself. I mean, of course, now she's kind of in a little bit of a confidence slump, but thinking to herself. Confidence that has gotten me nowhere so far. Karma. Don't look so dour, Lucette. You've become quite the accomplished woman. Karma gestures towards me and I flush, unsure of what he's talking about. Then I notice Delora's eyes are on me too. Delora. Oh, Parfait, do you see that? Parfait, shocked. Lucette. What are they looking at? You know, I remember thinking earlier that there was something that she did where I'm like, I'm surprised that didn't count as a good deed. And it turns, I can't remember, I genuinely cannot remember what it was, but I'm sure it'll remind me. But I remember thinking, gosh, that seems like that should have been a good deed. I'm surprised she didn't get a piece of her necklace. And it turns out she did, and she just didn't notice at the time. Alright, I reach down to grab my necklace and then pause. I cannot stop the gasp that leaves my lips. Lucette, shocked. When did this happen? Delora. Princess, you didn't realize that there was an extra piece to your necklace? Parfait. Congratulations, Princess Lucette. You're a step closer to breaking your curse. Lucette, thinking to herself. I feel proud. I only ever felt this way around Mother. Karma. She did me a great favor yesterday. Oh, right. It was the thing with the women and pulling Karma. And I was like, that scene, yeah, when she saved Karma from the bevy of curse hypnotized women, I was like, that feels good deed. And I'm glad to see that it actually was a good deed. So, Karma. She did me a great favor yesterday. If not for Lucette, I might have suffocated beneath a pile of very excited women. Lucette, thinking to herself. Wait, helping Karma escape was a good deed? Yes, I mean, of course, the whole point is that she doesn't totally understand what makes something a good deed yet, but, like, yes, it was, because Karma himself said, like, you could have just left him behind, and so he's not to have to deal with it, but instead you dragged him with you, and that was, you know, sweet, and I totally see that being a good act. Yeah, helping Karma get away from those women. Yep, totally makes sense as a good deed. Karma. She was selfless. Lucette, thinking to herself. He's not even mentioning the injury he got protecting me. Parfait and Delora are both smiling, but the cheerful mood does not last long. Lucette. What were you all talking about before I came down? Delora. About your kidnapping. Well, kidnappings. Both of them. It looks like we have a serious problem on our hands. Lucette. What do you know about this? What does Waltz know that I don't? Karma. Princess, it's more about what everyone else knows that you don't. Lucette. What everyone else knows? I feel anger begin to simmer inside of me. Even though he looks apologetic, he says it so casually. Lucette, what are you all hiding from me? Delora, let's gather everyone later, shall we? I think Waltz might want to be here for this too. Lucette, what does Waltz have to do with any of it? Delora, be patient, princess. You've already waited this long. What's another few hours? I have no choice but to agree when Parfait and Delora refuse to say any more, but I am not happy about it. I spend the rest of my time doing idle chores around the tavern. I do a round of sweeping with Mr. Broom and mindlessly organize some of the bottles. Lucette, thinking to herself, I cannot believe everyone knows something about me that I don't. But now I'll find out the entire story. Maybe it will answer some of the questions I have. But why are they keeping things about me a secret to begin with? Delora gathers everyone in the tavern to discuss the kidnappings. I decide to sit in between Waltz and Karma. Parfait. So, we have a story to tell. Rumple. Story time, huh? I don't suppose this would be romance, would it? Oh, I'm gonna hate myself for the voice I've given Rumple once I get to his room. Maybe something will happen to shift him so I can chill his the intense tonality of his voice down. Karma. How can you stand to make comments like that constantly? I'm also trying to differentiate between Karma and Rumple, who I have similar voices for, which makes sense because, you know, Lucette's not wrong that she keeps noticing similarities between them. Rumple. How can you stand to live a lie? The two glare at each other across the table, but Delora silences them. Delora starts with the story about the Great War, one that I have already heard so many times I can recite it myself. Lucette, thinking to herself, what does any of this have to do with me? Delora, because of the fairy tales, witches like myself were punished for simply existing. Our leader, the Tenebrarum bearer, was a kind witch that was overtaken by the grief that our people suffered. Okay. I appreciate that it is I always kind of suspected that she started off not being a bad person, but like was kind of driven mad by grief and the power of the Tenebrarum, basically. Right, so Delora continuing. She was driven so far into madness that she created the fairy tale curse to punish humans and make them suffer as the witches had. And when that wasn't enough, she committed the ultimate taboo. She killed a human. Parfait. I tried to stop her, but by the time I thought to act, it was too late. Okay, I have some commentary about that I think Ice Starmie will appreciate, because I know I've said before I don't dislike Parfait as strongly as you do, but oh boy, this one actually makes me really angry. Like, we've just established humans were literally persecuting witches, like, I'm pretty sure, like, straight up witch hunt levels, like, persecuting and, like, executing and such. And, you know, things really, really bad. And very understandably, the leader of the witches was starting to, like, go mad from the Tenebrarum crystal and, like, you know, and okay, to be fair, I can see Parfait not intervening on with the fairy tale curses, because it's like, okay, I see why they're upset. But the thing is that I feel like that statement says more than Parfait meant it to, and it's not flattering what it says. By the time I thought to act, it was too late. Because my question, Parfait, is why didn't you think to act when the persecution started? Much less after it had gotten to the point that the Tenebrarum witch had gone insane and had created the fairy tale curse and had done all of this other horrible stuff. Only then did you think to act? Like, you didn't think to intervene? You didn't think to be like, hey, humans? Like, why? Parfait, You were really okay. So, and to be clear, Parfait is the holder of the light crystal, which is sort of the like. So the fairies have the light crystal, the witches have the dark crystal, and so everyone started. And one human came through and started writing a bunch of fairy tales where witches were the bad guys and fairies were the good guys, and humans are kind of stupid. So they were like, fairies are good and witches are bad. Witches are all evil, clearly, and things went downhill from there. And Parfait, and so the thing that the witches actually and the fairies actually do is they hold the crystal of light and goodness and the crystal of dark and badness and keep them in balance. And Parfait was the holder of the Lucis crystal, the light crystal. And was in fact, no one in the world could have been better positioned than her to try and curb this. And it really sounds like her phrasing there really makes it sound like she just did nothing. That she just stood aside and watched it happen. Yeah, I know there's no chance for it, but I wish we had a prequel about the previous Tenebrarium as we had for Darth Vader. Yeah, that would be really interesting. And exactly, she should have acted to stop the fairy tales and the humans. That's exactly the main reason why I dislike her. She regrets not stopping the Tenebrarium bearer, but she doesn't say that she regrets not stopping the witch hunt. Yeah, honestly, this does bring me around to kind of wow! Honestly, a little bit F you. You watched this happening, and you stood aside and you did nothing. Wow. I'm like, is there any excuse for it? It's like, okay, if the Tenebrarium crystal can drive witches to darkness, maybe the light crystal makes fairies get a little bit too much rose-colored glasses and not see when things are actually really bad and need to get intervened, but that's not enough, right? Maybe that's a little bit of an explanation, but it's not an excuse. And this one statement says so much about Parfait that just makes me so angry, that things had to get as bad as they did before Parfait acted. So the fairy tale curses happened, everything was horrible forever for the witches, they started making everything horrible forever for the humans, and then finally things got so bad and so untenable for both sides that Parfait's like, oh, I guess I should do something, and then joined the humans in the Great War to just, by the point, and I mean, it sounds like, okay, the Tenebrarium bearer had gotten too far for her to have done anything to, actually help her back on the path of goodness. So I understand at that stage, her joining the humans and just, there being a war. But, you're the one who left it until it got that bad. It's even a bit worse than that, but I can't say more because that's just a detail that will be revealed only in Waltz's route. For now, I can only say that she had a chance to stop the fairy tales and avoid the witch hunt. Okay, I'm just gonna guess because, so I haven't played later. Don't confirm this one way or the other, because I don't mind, you will learn more as a statement, but I don't want to actually be spoiled, so this is just me theory spinning. But it sounds kind of like she met the guy who wrote the fairy tales and went, oh, these fairy tales are so fun, they'll make people happy, and maybe it won't be good for the witches, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And just let him polish it and, didn't think anything of it. Can't see captions, at least not on phone. That's a bummer. So, one of the things I figured, just a brief aside about captions, I found out that for the captions thing to work, you need to have it up in its own browser. And I'm looking at it now, and it's definitely captioning me. I just don't know how to make it show up on, how to be sure that it's showing up on Twitch. So, I can see the captions on my dashboard. That's all I can really tell you. But I'll mess around with it a little more. Maybe I was planning on doing a little, some kind of small incidental stream tomorrow, not one, a shorter one and not a game that I usually play, but I might use that also as a time to do some testing with the captioning. Because I would really like to have captions for my stream for a lot of reasons, just because... oh, no, wait, you can maybe, but also not see chat, it's in the same place? Oh, that's a pain. Okay, but you can see, you can see the captions. Oh, that's really exciting. If you have it on its own thing, you just Add a browser source overlay. No, that's the thing. I added a browser source overlay and it didn't work. There is a way to actually put it into OBS as like hard-coded, but I didn't want it hard-coded because like I'd rather the captions be removable, and if I were to like put them in OBS, then it would be embedded in my stream and no one could actually remove them, which means that if it was blocking the text that I'm reading, that would be kind of a problem. But the trick was, so I put like a doc for it that I thought would work like the just having the web page open, but actually that didn't work because it has to be Chrome, like maybe also Firefox, but like the software that actually is doing the voice encoding only works in certain browsers. So yeah, true, yeah. So, like, literally I have to have a Chrome tab open with the captions running while I stream for it to work, so. Which is fine, like, my computer can handle that no problem, even on, like, higher res games, so it's not a problem for me to do that, and so that's the thing that I did that I changed, that I got the captions to work. So I'm pretty excited about getting the captions to work, just because I'm glad to have them. Anyway, sorry for the aside there. Right, so, and now we're back. Alright, we're gonna continue, and Parfait being like, oh no, it was too late, because I waited until the very, very last moment that I possibly could have intervened to prevent an all-out massacre. And that's only for the, and even there, I only prevented the massacre for the humans. We should just set a time to test that I assume you mean that nonsense. That's fair, yeah. I don't want to take too much time on it on this, but like I said, I'm going to be doing like a little short stream tomorrow, probably around 5, so we can maybe mess with it then. More work to do, alas, so we'll watch the VOD later. Oh, thank you for watching the VOD later, and thank you for sticking around as long as you did. Alright. Okay, in some ways that was kind of a nice distraction, because moving away from me being real mad at Parfait. Like, you know, tell me that you did nothing when you could have without telling me you did nothing when you could have. And by the time I thought to act is how Parfait just did that. Alright, anyway. Lucette thinking to herself, knowing that Delora and Parfait were involved in the Great War makes it seem more real. Out loud. But wasn't the Tenebrarum bearer killed? How can the fairy tale curse continue to spread if she is dead? Parfait. I believe that the Tenebrarum bearer sacrificed the last bit of her life to continue powering the Tenebrarum. Delora. All to ensure that the remaining witches could continue spreading the fairy tale curse. Is none of this ringing a bell for you? Lucette. What are you talking about? Waltz. She really did erase your memories. Lucette. Erase? Okay, so I'm guessing in Rod's route, I like that we're getting, like, very slowly a sort of more of the plot as we go, which is how it's supposed to be set up, right? But, like, in Rod's route, Waltz was not part of this discussion. Like, it was just Delora and Parfait telling Lucette. And Rod might also have been there, but, like, based on them pulling Waltz in and Waltz having additional information, it makes it sound like they had a conversation with Waltz off screen and then came to Lucette with it later. But it also seems like it came to a head a little bit differently, so. Right, so, Delora. The witch who died, the Tenebrarum bearer, was your mother, Princess Lucette. Lucette. Shocked. You know what, actually, I feel bad that I interrupted in the middle of that. I kind of want to go back and just reread that bit so it can be one smooth thing, and then I can, like, kind of chop the VOD a little. Alright, so I'm gonna... Yep. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go back to here and I'm gonna read it straight, without a pause. Parfait. I believe that the Tenebrarum bearer sacrificed the last bit of her life to continue powering the Tenebrarum. Delora. All to ensure that the remaining witches could continue spreading the fairy tale curse. Is none of this ringing a bell for you? Lucette. What are you talking about? Waltz. She really did erase your memories. Lucette. Erase? Delora. The witch who died, the Tenebrarum bearer, was your mother, Princess Lucette. Lucette, shocked. What? For some reason, I turned to look at Karma, who is one of the only people who doesn't look away from me. Karma. I grew up outside of this kingdom, but even I knew of the terrible witch Hildir. Lucette. You expect me to believe any of this? Mother was... She wasn't a witch. I would remember that. Delora. Well, you would if you had memories of the war, and the years before that. Jurian. Under Hildir's rule, the palace was a dark place. Garland. The king didn't have any real power until Hildir was defeated. Delora. That goes for the rest of us, too. We were slaves to Hildir. Delora's eyes flicker to Waltz. Waltz. It's the truth. I am noticing Delora and Waltz have the same eye color. I wonder if that's relevant, but I guess we'll find out and probably closer to Waltz's route. Oh shit! Okay. Waltz is also a witch. Delora. Waltz knows because he is also a witch. He experienced Hildir's command over the witches firsthand as well. Lucette, shocked. Thinking to herself, Waltz is a witch? Waltz. Sorry for keeping it a secret, Princess. It's not as if I can use much magic anymore anyway. Not when I'm cursed. Damn! Waltz is a witch! I did not expect that one. Okay, so, like, I'd gotten the whole reveal, and that's so cool, right? Because I'm playing this game for the first time, but I've already played through Rod's route, so I already knew that, you know, her mother was the leader of the witches, that was the Tenebrarum bearer, and how she's actually her daughter of the witch who started the Great War and all that, and she's inherited. So I knew all that, but I had no idea Waltz was also a witch. So, like, there's still a cool reveal here. And so I like that. I like that as a I guess a writing technique, like that each route builds on the previous and gives you a little bit more content. Or a little more context, rather, because they all have content, but a little more context for the bigger story. Right, so Lucette, thinking to herself, this is just another secret of many. It seems everyone is hiding something. Parfait. Everyone was freed after Hildir's reign. Witches, fairies, and humans alike. The king was even able to marry Ophelia, the woman he always truly loved. Lucette, thinking to herself, so, it has always been Ophelia that he truly loved. Was that the reason I never felt any love from him? Because I was my mother's daughter? Out loud. He gave up on me. Parfait. No, dear, I don't think he... Lucette. He gave up on me! My voice is too loud in the reception area. I feel it crack beneath the pressure, and suddenly I want to cry. But Mother told me so many times not to cry. Lucette, thinking to herself. The king gave up on me. But Mother didn't. Mother would tell me this was all a lie. She would tell me not to trust anyone. They must be lying. I turned to Karma. For some reason, I trust him more than I trusted Delora or Parfait. I mean, you say for some reason, but actually it makes a lot of sense at this point because Karma has been the most straight with you and has treated you the best of everyone you've been interacting with this far. Yeah, in Rod's route, we learn how the king was reunited with Ophelia. Yep, I was thinking that too. And since I've already played that, people can just go back and watch the VODs. I don't consider that the same type of spoiler as new content. So, like, hey, anyone who didn't watch Rod's route, go watch the VODs. And also, the only way the king actually found Ophelia was because Rod, basically made, you know, Little Mermaid style, made a bad wish. This part is always sad when Lucette thinks about her father. Yeah, and you know, fair, like, as we've said before, like, her dad is, like, the ultimate useless bystander parent. Like, I believe that, like, he cares about her and loves her more than she thinks he does, but it makes total sense why she doesn't think he does, because he's been useless, and he hasn't really done anything for her, and hasn't been there for her when she needed him, and that's shitty. Right, so anyway, so she trusts Karma more than Dolora or Parfait in a way that makes total sense to me. So, for some reason, is in my opinion more like for several good reasons. Lucette, is this the truth? Karma. I was told the story of Hildir and her daughter Lucette. They said you were the picture of elegance, but that you shared your mother's icy nature. Lucette, shocked. Karma. But I don't think that's true at all. If Hildir was ice, then you most certainly are a warm fire. Lucette. If my mother was a witch, then... Thinking to herself, what does that make me? Dolora. You're a witch as well, whether or not you were ever taught to use magic. On your upcoming birthday, you will become the Tenebrarum bearer. Lucette. Do you realize how ridiculous this all sounds? Me? A witch? The king never said anything. And now I can't even ask him if this is the truth because I'm cursed. Why would you even curse me? Parfait. We didn't want a repeat of the tragedy, Lucette. Yeah, and then she has the confirmation that he never loved her mother, so yeah, it makes total sense why she thinks, again, that he never loved her. Yeah, it does make sense. Absolutely. Yeah, alright, this is also making me a little, like, the best thing you could possibly have come up to do to make sure Hildir's daughter didn't, like, reignite the Great War was to curse her so she has to make sure that she learns how to be a good person. You couldn't have, like, you obviously know the king, right, and are hanging out at the palace a lot to begin with. You couldn't have just come in and been like, hey, Lucette, we are here to take care of you and explain to you what happened, and, like, no, anything? Ugh. Now that's a bad excuse. Lucette never planned a war. Well, that's the thing. It's not an excuse. It's they genuinely believed that, well, this is the best way to make sure that she doesn't just suddenly decide and, like, go down the same path as her mother. And it's like, it's not? Like, guys, there are, like, a million other angles you could have chosen, but... Like, and the other thing that's frustrating is the writers could have done something to make this make more sense, right? Like, if Dolora hadn't been observing her for a full-ass year, or if, like, Parfait and Dolora didn't have access to the castle, like, the king, like, wouldn't, like, let them near his daughter, or, like, something that would have prevented them from intervening sooner. But on the other hand, like, the writing does clearly indicate that Parfait is not the type to intervene until the last gosh darn second. So. Right. Dolora. Okay, and now Dolora's gonna... Dolora. I sat on your shelves for almost a year, princess. There was ice in your heart, and if you had inherited the Tenebrarum in that state, who knows what would have happened. Okay, fine, fair. The Tenebrarum can easily influence people to darkness if they already have it in them. Like, she had a lot of misery in her, and she could easily have gotten... So, like, Lucette herself, and, like, she never would have done that, but I can see the concern of, oh, the Tenebrarum might have dragged her down like it did her mother. But, like, again, so many other ways you could have handled this. Very well said, they could have taken a less drastic measure. Yes, exactly. Like, I mean, sure, there wouldn't have been a story, but even if, like, there's even other ways they could have written it to make this a story. Like I said, like, have some way that they couldn't get to her, except by cursing her, and this was, like, their last-ditch effort to do something, to intervene, because they couldn't, whereas instead, it's more like, it's not that they couldn't, it's just that they didn't. Because Parfait is a champion at not intervening. Anyway. Lucette, then why didn't you just tell me any of this? Dolora and Parfait look at each other before dropping their gazes to the ground. Ha. Alright, so Dolora. If we had told you before, would you have even bothered to listen? The king must have tried to do the same thing, and look how that turned out. Did you try? Did you try at all? No? Alright, then I don't think you get to use this excuse, but... Delora. Continuing. You shut out everyone who ever tried to tell you about Hildir's true nature. Lucette, thinking to herself, that is probably true. Even now I'm having trouble believing that they are telling me the truth. Alright, but the problem I have here is like, okay, sure, she was in an abusive relationship. It can be really, really hard for people to recognize that. Like, I mean, not in an abuse, like, she had an abusive relationship with her mother. Like, she was being abused. But, yeah, she would have listened, especially if the king was there to confirm what they said. Yeah, and, like, I see that they're like, oh, okay, when somebody is coming from a really abusive situation, a lot of times, early on, they really just, they can't. They don't hear that when you try to tell them. And so I'm sure that that's what they were all assuming, or I hope that's what they were all assuming was going on, was that she was still too close to the mindset she was in when she was actively being abused. But you know what else you can do when somebody is in an abusive situation? And, like, in real life, I don't, like, this is a thing that is helpful for, but, like, you know, if it hurts you to do it, like, you don't owe this to anyone. But I was in an abusive, like, romantic relationship a long time ago, and I'm not going to go into, like, huge details, and it wasn't super dramatically bad. It was just, like, a really bad, like, less than a year emotionally abusive situation. And, like, there's a stark difference between, oh, we just, like, you know, I wasn't listening to people at first. There were people who, like, yeah, this is really not good, and you shouldn't be in this relationship, and I wasn't in a place to hear it. But the thing that people did for me that was the most helpful was that a lot of, you know, my closer friends who could handle doing it stayed close to me and stopped making that argument. And were like, okay, we won't talk about that. Let me be here for you and make sure you're not getting isolated and make sure that you still know that we're here for you. And so that they were then positioned really well that when I started to realize, oh, this is an abusive relationship I need to get out of, they were, they were there for me the whole time. I trusted them, and they were able to just, like, pull me right out, basically. Like, you know, when I finally started being like, this is a really bad situation, isn't it? And they're like, yes, it is. And so that's the thing where I'm like, so that's a life experience that I had that is, you know, long ago, doesn't really affect me anymore, but, like, so I can't help but think, Parfait and Delora could have created presents for themselves at the castle. Like, I get that they were being a little cautious because they know something is going on at the castle, but, like, the king could have had Fritz bring her to the March Hen, like, right? Like, there's a lot of things that they could have done to be present in Lucette's life and slowly gotten her to, like, warm up around them and trust them, like her father and Delora and Parfait, and, like, there are things they could have done to become part of her life so that she would trust them, and then they could have slowly broken it to her. And they didn't. They waited until the absolute, they were like, well, she's not hearing us, we're just gonna not bother until the absolute last minute, and we have to because her birthday's coming up. So, alright, so this frustrates me, and I hope that didn't get too TMI, but, like, you know, about my personal life, but, yeah, like, you know, I have enough experience to be really frustrated when I see people, like, who were positioned such that they could have helped someone who was in an abusive situation better than they did, and just didn't. And that's definitely what's going on here. And, like, again, right back to her father could have been there for her when she was super upset that her mother had died, and he wasn't. And they had time. They had years to try to convince her of the truth. You were very right. Unfortunately for Lucette, people just left her on her own, even her father, which is why she complained that he left her alone after her mother's death. Yeah, exactly that. Like, they could have been there for her, and just no one was. So, like, you get upset about, you're all like, oh, there was ice in your heart, princess, and you were in a bad place, and we needed to, like, get you out of it. But you never tried before now. You never tried anything but the most dramatic measure, and that's when you had the opportunity to do better, and that is intrinsically frustrating. Alright, moving on. So, yes, poor Lucette having now gotten to a point where she's been around these people, and like, you know, even then, like, there's a reason why she keeps looking to Karma as, is this true? Because Karma's the only one who's, like, even since she's come to the Marchen, who's really made an effort to, like, build a close and friendly relationship with her. I mean, I guess Parfait and Delora have, well, I mean, not Delora, I'm not giving Delora credit for trying, because I don't think she has been, but at least Parfait's been kind of trying since she's gotten here, but, like, still hasn't done much, so. But yeah, so she's being confronted with the truth of an abusive situation that she's having trouble accepting, and so she keeps turning to the one person who has been there, and there's, like, I think, and that's why I actually stand by, like, Karma, several points it came up where he could have been like, you know about your mother, and he was like, it's not my place, and so he just rolled with so he just met her at the place she was and did his best to relate to her in a way that wouldn't be too jarring. And that's actually, in a lot of ways, I'm realizing now, Karma did exactly what I'm saying is one of the most helpful things you can do, is, like, get close to someone without poking the painful, thorny trauma bits until you are in a place where you are, like, close and, you know, until you have, like, sort of a very trust-based relationship. And, like, and he never, like, actively lied to her, he just sort of smoothly detransitioned when it was clear that she didn't remember. And I remember commenting on that in that scene when they were out in town and they were, like, sharing a cupcake. Like, there was a really clear moment where it's like, oh, Karma knows. Karma definitely knows about her mother. And she responded in a way that made it very clear that she didn't. And Karma's like, okay. Topic transition. And it was brilliant. And I commented it on the time because it was a really good way to handle that situation. And so that does give Karma a lot of points in my book. So I like, that makes me happy about this route, for sure. Alright. Anyway, unfortunately, yeah. Yes, okay, so I'm caught up on the chat. Alright, so continuing to poor Lucette finally having to get confronted with the truth of a really, really bad situation. And I mean, they are, at the very, very, very least, they are finally right that she is now in a position where she can hear it and internalize it. It's just going to be really, really hard. The whole world feels as if it is collapsing around me. I need to escape. I need to go out and be somewhere else, but... Lucette, out loud. Why are the witches looking for me? Delora. You are the heir to the Tenebrarum. No doubt the evil witches want you on their side so they can continue wreaking havoc in Angiel with the fairy tale curse. Karma. The men that were looking for Lucette were not witches, though. They were knights. Delora. Perhaps the witches and the knights are working together? I mean, actually, from Rod's route, we know that that is true, so... Jurian. This must be part of Alcaster's scheme to steal the throne. Lucette. What are you talking about? Jurian. The reason why Garland and I left the Order of Caldera is because the king did not believe us about Alcaster's coup. Parfait. How would he know of the princess's identity, though? Anyone who isn't a witch, a fairy, or isn't cursed shouldn't be able to remember her. Karma. But now we know it is not just the witches looking for the princess, but the Knights of the Order of Caldera as well. They definitely have a description of her from somewhere. Lucette. Silence. Karma. Lucette? Karma reaches out a hand to touch my shoulder, and I flinch back before standing up. Lucette. I cannot speak about this now. I want to be alone. Karma. Delora. Let her go. She'll need a lot of time to think. Karma. Silence. Yeah, and that one's a hard call. Like, I think it's fair to give her some alone time to process all this. And, you know, I hope Karma will be there for her once she's had a little bit of alone time to process, but, like, you know, do you go and follow the person who's having a hard time because they could really use someone, or do you let them have alone time? Is always, it's different and it depends on the person and the situation, but in this case I think it probably is good for Lucette to sit on this a while. I leave everyone sitting at the table as I try to process the whirling thoughts in my mind. Hildir, my mother, the only person I ever thought loved me, was the Tenebrarum bearer, a witch, the first witch to kill a human. The witch that started the fairy tale curse. Yeah, and I mean, I've gone over this a lot over the course of this series about how emotionally manipulative and abusive her mother was, but like, absolutely, like, she was just classic textbook red flags down, like, down the whole, let's, check mark every red flag we possibly can, like, isolated her, constantly told her, I'm the only one you can trust, I'm the only one who loves you, all that shit, to the point of like, and gaslit her to the point of literally erasing her fucking memories because she could. Like, you think you think it's bad to make someone like start to doubt their own perceptions, like taking it to a whole new level of, oh, that one came off a little harsher, that like, oh no, she might come away from this memory from a negative with a negative emotion. Better erase it, so she only remembers the times where I'm like able to be totally positive, so she just doesn't remember, like, as we've discussed before, like a lot of her flashbacks feel like they are memories returning to her, and a lot of them are just times when her mother was like, I'm the only one you can trust. But I also noticed that they are all of the times where she did something that her mother didn't like, so it's like, oh, you wanted to play with the other kids? First of all, I'll tell you no and all the reasons why you shouldn't, and then, just in case, I'll erase your memory of having wanted to do that. So yeah, her mother was super heckin' yikes. So Lucette has a lot to untangle here. Lucette thinking to herself, all this time I thought Mother was the only one who cared, but what if she never did? Yeah, I don't know if she was in a place where she could. I stay in my room for a long time, trying to process everything I had been told. Days go by before I decide to leave the tavern again to watch Karma practice with the knights. Lucette thinking to herself, these last few days I've felt hollow. Maybe seeing the normal practices will help me feel better. Maybe it will make things feel like nothing's changed. Excuse me. When I arrive at the forest, however, only Karma is standing in the clearing. He's staring through the trees as if he sees something there, but his expression is solemn, almost sad. Eventually he sighs, shaking his head before turning in my direction. Karma, shocked. Lucette! I prepare for myself for a response, but find that no words come to mind. I have not spoken to Karma since the talk about Mother and witches, and any of the ease I felt with him before has slipped away. Still, I came here on my own, and I cannot just stand here being mute. I mean, I actually like, I imagine her ease with anyone ever has slipped away because she's just had her entire, like, life uprooted and has, for the first time in her life, had to, like, confront and process, like, what is now coming from an abusive mindset to severe trauma from the aftermath of an abusive mindset. And, like I was saying before, Karma had built up this relationship of trust with her, and even if she's right now feeling like it's crumbled down, he's still one of the first people that she reaches out to, and I feel like that both makes a lot of sense and is, like, really nice, if that makes sense. So, right. Still, I came here on my own, and I cannot just stand here being... I also, like, in a lot of ways, this is kind of a side note, but I'm really proud of Lucette for, like, being in a really bad place and deciding that she needed to reach out. Like, that's hard. I say the first thing that comes to mind. Lucette out loud. Where are Jurian and Garland? Karma. I'll only train with Garland. Jurian is on patrol duty tonight. He'll be here later. I just came early. It seems you did, too. Karma. Silence. Lucette, are you okay? I'm sorry I haven't been by to see you. Lucette. It's not as if you owe that to me. Karma. I don't owe it to you, but I truly wanted to. I've just been busy these last few days, scouting the town for information. As much as I want you to come with me... Lucette. Why would you ever have wanted to pair up with someone like me anyway? Karma. Shocked. Why, Princess, that's because you're... Lucette. I am bitter and cold, and even though I want to change, all I can think about is myself. But now I want to change because I do not want to be the same as my mother. Isn't that selfish? Karma. Maybe so, but I believe you are being selfish for the right reasons. An entirely selfless person can't survive in this world. Sorry, it's hard to read the slightly flowery voice in the very serious tone. But I agree with this so strongly, and I'm so happy about it. An entirely selfless person can't survive in this world. Before we can make others happy, we have to be happy ourselves. Yes! Sorry, I feel really strongly about that. It's really important to take care of yourself first and foremost. And that's, it's not being selfish to make sure that you are okay before you make sure someone else is okay. Because if you're not okay and you're trying to help someone else, you are just as likely to do as much harm as good. It is always important to, and there are a lot of people who are like, oh, well, isn't that selfish to, focus on myself? And it's no. Or if it is, it's for the right reasons, as Karma said. You need to be a little selfish sometimes because you need to take care of yourself if you want to take care of others. Lucette. Happy. Ourselves? Karma. Yes, an angry person holds resentment towards everyone, and it mars whatever good deeds they seek to do. Lucette. That is why I cannot complete my good deeds. Karma. Wrong. You've already got one done. Recognizing the need for change is always a good thing, Lucette. Regardless of the motivation, you are trying to become a better person. That is what matters. I kind of liked Karma to begin with, but, through a lot of this route, I'm okay, Karma is, was either neutral or I did not particularly like him more or less than I did from the get-go, but, I'm starting to really get to the point, before there were times where I'm man, sometimes Karma just, spits these, great gems of wisdom, but now I'm yeah, damn, now, Karma's, being there for her, and, has all these really, smart, commentary about life that I really agree with and I'm totally on the same page with, and I even, I said, I have a sucker for the protective trope, so the bit where he's this will never happen again was for me, that's yes, that's what gets for me. So yeah, Karma is definitely growing on me, and I don't know, I'm just so excited that this is that it's fun to see someone give life advice that I really agree with, I guess. Regardless of your motivation, wanting to become a better person is a good thing. Intent matters, I do believe that, but it's not the be-all, end-all. The end results are more important than intent. It's not that intent matters not at all, but, to some extent, I don't care if someone is doing good things for the wrong reason, as long as they consistently do good things, and don't, the wrong reason only matters if you act on it, right? If someone's being nice to the classic, if someone's only being nice to someone because they're, wanting to date them, and then they stop being nice to them the moment that's off the table, right? That's not being nice. But it's if you're nice to someone because you want that, and then you find out that it's not on the table, and you're well, alright, I mean, it doesn't waste your time, or, just any time that you're, or, only being nice to someone when you want something from them. That's no good, but if you're nice to people and you also want something, it's fine if you're also nice to them. I don't know. It's just, it's the matter of, do you consistently perform the good behavior? Even if it's for a bad reason, I think it's only bad if you act badly. The classic example is if you're only being, good and doing good deeds because you want the praise, that to me is fine. As long as you don't get upset when people don't praise you, and, if you're alright, well, I'll go try to do good somewhere else, and then maybe the next person will praise me. To me, that's fine. Because you're just doing good. It doesn't really matter to me what's going on in your head if you're consistently doing good. But that's just me, and that's obviously this game is also trying to get through to her to be in a better place to be able to do good things more consistently. So this is a tangent I'm getting off to that is not totally relevant to Lucette or the story. It's just kind of personal opinion time because there's so much of this that is just like, my own life philosophy expanded upon. But yes. All right. So yes, where were we? Yes, this statement Karma made, which I will reread because I do agree with it so very strongly, even if I got a little overexcitably tangenty. Karma. Recognizing the need for change is always a good thing, Lucette. Regardless of the motivation, you are trying to become a better person. That is what matters. He takes a step towards me, then puts his hands on my shoulders and leans down until I can look right into his eyes. Karma's serious expression startles me as much as his touch. Karma. It is never too late for anyone to change. You taught me that. Lucette. What? Thinking to herself, how could I have taught Karma anything? Karma. Do you mind if I tell you a story, Lucette? Alright, choices. It's been a while. There's been so much, emotional and plot shit going on. That's just not been choices for a while. Alright, I'm inclined to not move because, romance, and that feels like the more correct choice. Lucette thinking to herself, with his face so close, all I can do is stare right into his eyes. Karma's hands tighten on my shoulders, and for a few moments I feel a slight panic rising in my chest. Then Karma steps away from me with a rough shake of his head. Lucette. Karma? Karma. Next time I do that, Lucette, feel free to push me away. Lucette. What? Karma. It's better that way. Lucette thinking to herself. What does he mean by that? Karma. You never answered. Will you listen to my story? Lucette. All right. Yeah, many revelations this chapter, right? Yeah, 100%. Okay, that felt like maybe it was the wrong choice. I don't know why it was the wrong choice, but felt wrong, so I'm gonna go redo it. I take a step away from him, and Karma's hands fall from my shoulder. He sighs out. Lucette. The story better be just as dramatic as mine. Karma. Thank you, Lucette. Lucette. For what? Karma. For agreeing to listen. And for what you just did. Lucette thinking to herself. Stepping away from him? Was I distracting him? I don't totally get it, but alright, cool. Glad that we figured out the right choice. Alright, now Karma will talk about his background. Nice. Yeah, alright, so the things that I've gotten so far is that he seems to have been nobility from a different kingdom. Oh, in fact, a crown prince from a different kingdom, which is promising, because, Lucette and Rod had a really hard time, but if he is the crown prince from another country, then, that is definitely, acceptable marriage material. I mean, assuming that he's no longer the crown prince of that country, if he's the prince, that is definitely marriageable material. Not that commoners are not marriageable to material, the only reason Lucette and Rod had trouble was because the stuff looking, but yeah. Anyway, so he's entirely eligible, is what I'm hearing, but maybe I'm overthinking it. Clearly this is a sad story. Sorry, I'll try to get more focused. Right, so, Karma. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived a crown prince from a kingdom called Brugantia. Lucette, shocked, thinking to herself, Brugantia is one of the neighboring kingdoms, so this isn't make-believe? Ah, Karma. His name was Claude Adric Rinaldi Mateus Almont. That is a mouthful. Wow. Okay, yeah, I see why he goes by Karma. I mean, he could go by Claude, but I like Karma as, the initials. Claude Idric Rinaldi Mateus Almont. Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. This is a theory, but maybe he appreciated to be reminded that she's not under the effect of his curse. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, that, because anyone under the effect of his curse would, of course, not step back. And so even though she's got, like, romantic feelings for him, like, you know, taking a step back, he's like, oh, right, yes, I should focus on my story, and, right, she's not just under the sway of my curse. And yeah, I can see that. That makes some sense. Right, his name was the thing I'm not going to read a third or fourth time. But because his name was such a mouthful, he settled for an acronym as a nickname, at least around the palace where it was acceptable. Lisette thinking to herself. Claude Idric Karma? Karma. Prince Claude was a man who flaunted his beauty and talents to all that he met. He often used his title to get what he wanted. Prince Claude was a selfish man who felt he was entitled to everything that he had. He was vain and often left his castle unattended so that he could avoid his responsibilities. Then, one day, he chanced upon a beautiful maiden in the town square. He led her around the whole day, being as charming as he possibly could. And then at the end of the day, he asked the woman to be his lover. She agreed, but their time together did not last long. Only weeks later, Prince Claude threw her away as one throws away an object and broke the woman's heart. Yeah, his father was having fun with the acronyms, yeah. Alright, so... And she cursed him, just to finish that. So that's fair. So, and this also in some ways, it's like, I feel like it makes sense why Karma is... You know, Lucette keeps noticing that Karma and Rumple are similar, but I think that the similarities at this point are only surface level, and Karma sees too much of his old self in Rumple, and that's part of why he hates Rumple so much. That makes a lot of sense. So yes. And she cursed him. Lucette, shocked. Karma. That beautiful maiden was a witch, but Prince Claude found out too late. The witch said that she would make his beauty, his vanity, a curse. Lucette thinking to herself, to make even beauty a curse. I mean, to be fair, the vanity is as much a curse as the beauty, so. Karma. Ashamed of being cursed, Prince Claude donned a disguise and left his kingdom behind. He has already been gone for nearly a year now, and most probably assume he is dead. But, in truth, the prince has come to Angel seeking a way to break his curse. He had heard of a young lady named Lucette, who, on her 18th birthday, could dispel any curse. Lucette, shocked. Oh, that's kind of nice. You can actually kind of assume that on... Oh, man, does her 18th birthday happen after Rod's curse activation? Because I'm like, everyone that she's not able to help through following their love interest routes, if they can just last until her birthday, she can just go through and uncurse them all. And I mean, even if none of the routes actually establish that she does that, it's certainly going to be my headcanon. Oh, that's why Karma was already punished for his Casanova ways, so he has learned his lesson, at least in part. Yeah, that's fair. Lucette. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if Rumple also has like been cursed as a punishment for Casanova ways, but like but he doesn't remember, so he can't learn from it yet. Lucette. Karma. Silence. Lucette, thinking to herself, he looks so sad. I don't know how to comfort him. Out loud. Claude. Shocked. Are we gonna start seeing him as Claude instead of Karma now? That's kind of interesting. Karma. Claude turns a startling red as he stares at me, and for a few moments he does not speak. Then he bursts out laughing. I stare at him in shock, not understanding his reaction. I feel myself flush. Oh, yes, this power is very important for Rod, considering the seriousness of his curse, yeah. Like, you know, here's hoping that in every route besides Rod's route, her birthday comes before the wedding, and, like... So she can be like, unlock the powers, and hey, let's bring everyone to the March End and get them uncursed, and, like... And Rod is just thinking to himself, oh, thank fuck, I was so close to Danger Zone. Without ever telling anyone. So yeah, clear headcanon, that's how Rod's route gets resolved. Like, it's not unreasonable to just say, like, you know, the only reason the wedding was before her birthday was for dramatic tension in Rod's route, but, like, clearly in all the other versions of the story, it is late enough after her birthday that she can uncurse him and Rod will be fine. By the way, this just reminded me of a long debate I had with another player about why Rod still refused Lucette's help. Oh, interesting! I hadn't even thought of that. Like, gosh, because he's like, he would have known that exact thing that Karma knew, that if he just waited long enough, she could help him. That's interesting. I think I want to focus. My theory was that Rod didn't know she could have this power. She would have this power. That's fair. I mean, he might not have. Like, he's clearly wasn't terribly in the know about curses and stuff until he got cursed. It's not just a headcanon. Fair enough. Alright. I am interested to hear more, but I'm gonna keep going with if you have more on that, but for now I will keep going with the story. I stare at him in shock, not understanding his reaction. I feel myself flush. Lucette. Isn't that your real name? Karma. No, darling, it is, but hearing you say my name, well, it sounds so much softer out of your lips. I rather like it. Lucette, thinking to herself, my cheeks are warm again. How is it that he is always able to make me feel this way? Attraction. That is the answer. Lucette, I will call you by that name if it makes you so happy. Claude, let's make it a secret between the two of us. I'm still Miss Karma here. Besides, I'd rather you kept that name from my ears only. It makes me feel more special that way. Lucette, thinking to herself, more special? At that moment, Garland shows up for practice, and Claude politely excuses himself. I watch the two of them trade blows. Claude favors his other hand, but his blows still come quickly, even with his injury. Lucette, thinking to herself, okay. Okay. It's not just a headcanon? Okay, so my thing was not just a headcanon, that she helps people, in other routes, she helps the other live interests that are not the guy of the route. Okay, so it is not just a headcanon. The game confirms that she gains the power to break the curses, and she helps the other love interests that are not the route she's on. The problem with my theory, quote-unquote problem, with my theory is if Rod didn't know that, we have to ask why Parfait didn't tell him since she knew the conditions of his curse. But this is still my theory, otherwise it doesn't make sense why Rod was so against the partnership at first. I mean, I could also maybe see an angle where he just really, really resents her for how she's treated his family to the point that she's like, I will accept no help from her, even if it could be the solution to my problem, but it does seem a little excessively stubborn for him. So, yeah, I can see why that's a little, I can see how that turned into a debate, but I don't see anything wrong with your theory, because I can also easily see, like, Parfait just doesn't think to tell him, because that seems like something Parfait would do. Also, you know, I could also see an angle, not to mention that there is a moment when Lucette confronts him and he says there is nothing she can do to help him. Yeah, and you know what? I even thought of a reason why Parfait might not have told him, which is if she wasn't sure. Like, obviously they're both, like, she and Delora are real paranoid about what Lucette will do once she becomes the Tenebrarum bearer. It could be that she wasn't totally confident that Lucette would actually want to break everyone's curses, and so she didn't want to give people false hope, especially in a case as extreme as Rod's. His resentment only explains his initial reaction. Yeah. No, and I mean, I think that that's like, they get close and even fall in love, so why would he keep refusing her help? His help. He keep refusing her help, yes. Yeah, no, I think that works with that works if you go under the assumption that Parfait didn't tell him, because that's the only way he would have known, because he doesn't have any particular context or experience with this, and the reason for Parfait to not tell him, that makes total sense to me, is she's like, oh, well, I don't know for sure if that'll work, and so I'm not gonna bother telling him until I am sure it'll work. Seems like something she'd do. So I can totally see a scenario where... Oh no, what did I just do? I messed up my chair. I could totally see a scenario where Parfait just didn't tell him, and so he just didn't know. Because Parfait wasn't actually confident that Lucette would help him. And that's kind of not fair of her, but I could also see an angle by which it's like, well, don't want to get people's hopes up, so that's my theory. Or rather, that's my theory for as to how your theory could work. Your theory sounds totally valid to me. You just need an explanation for why Parfait wouldn't have told Rod, and I think there's a very valid explanation for she might have just intentionally not done so. And I can see lots of reasons why Parfait would have just intentionally not done so, and most prominently among them being like, well, you know, if we're not sure, no reason to get people's hopes up. So yeah, I can get behind that. Right, Lucette thinking to herself. The more Claude tells me, the more I realize that he's like me, a noble cursed for being selfish. But how do I help break his curse? Why can't he tell me? As practice is drawing to a close, I wonder if it's like a Beauty and the Beast style thing, where it's like someone has to fall in love with him of their own, from his own merits or something, and so it's like you can't just tell someone to fall in love with you. So that's my best guess at the moment, because that's how it was in Beauty and the Beast, right? It was like for the Beast to be uncursed, someone had to like actually fall in love with him, even when he was in beastly mode. And this would actually cause some of the same problems. It's like, oh, no one could fall in love with him when he's a beast, but like in similar, no one can really fall in love, like can proper fall in love with Karma when they are cursed to fall in love, when like they are only falling in love with him because of the curse. So that's my current running theory on how to break Karma's curse and why he might not tell someone. Because he would assume, well, it's not like I can just make someone fall in love with me. So yep. That's my guess. It could be something totally different. This is my first playthrough on this route, so we will find out. But, I like spinning theories as I play, so. Sorry. As practice is drawing to a close, Claude asks Garland the usual question. Claude. Have you confessed to Jurian yet? Garland only shakes his head in reply. The two men sheathe their swords. Garland looks almost sad as he turns to make his way back to the tavern. Lucette thinking to herself. He likes her, and yet he won't say anything. Why is that frustrating me so much? Out loud. Garland. Yes, princess? Okay, I know what I want the choice to be, but, as usual, I don't want to, run the risk. Considering my theory, it was very cold of Parfait to let him think he had there was no way to save him. It was also dangerous because he kept refusing the help of the person who could help him because he didn't know she could help him. Yeah, but that seems very Parfait to me, being very I don't even think it was her intentionally being cold, I think she might have done that being like, oh, well, I don't want to get his hopes up because just think how crushed he'll be if it turns out not to be the case. Which seems... I can see how she got there, but it's very short-sighted, which to me is classic Parfait. See how she got there, you can see how she got there, but it's very short-sighted, and it makes her very ineffectual. Alright, so I want the answer to this choice. I saved saved it, right? Yes. I want the answer to this choice to be, you have to tell her because I want to see progress. But we'll find out. Okay, so, Lucette thinking to herself. Claude told me before that confessing is hard, but what Garland is going through looks even harder. Garland. Princess, you know I'm incapable. Lucette. No, you think you're incapable, but if you never say anything to her, you'll never know. Because you're a Jurian shipper, Jurlan, right, because Jurian and Garlan. Jurlan shipper Lucette. It's frustrating when your ship doesn't get together. Yes! And also, you're right, it's classic perfect. Yep. 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 Right, so, Garland. If I say something wrong, I risk losing everything that I already have with her. Lucette. And if you say nothing, you risk losing what you could have with her. Yeah! Alright, I'm glad that was the right choice. Claude. Lucette is right. Maybe you should really tell her, Garland. Lucette, thinking to herself. But before, Claude was adamant that Garland shouldn't confess to Jurian. What changed? Garland. If I mess this up... Claude. Let's try looking at this through another lens. Imagine that Jurian is Lucette. How do you think she would like to be confessed to? I frown at the two men, arms crossed. Lucette. Excuse me? Claude. Well, you and Jurian are very similar. You're both very straightforward. Garland. Confess to the princess? My eyes move to Claude, but only fleetingly before they are once again on Garland. Lucette. You just need to do something simple, Garland. Something that will not rub her the wrong way. Claude. A maiden's heart is ever fragile, and each woman is different. Okay, let's be real. Sure, a maiden's heart is fragile, whatever. Everyone's heart is fragile at the core of it. Let's be real. I mean, there's a reason that Claude can relate so hard to the fear of confessing to someone. Like, you can say a maiden all you like, but, like, people's hearts are fragile. That's just the way of it. Claude is wearing an amused smile on his face, but he is looking at me, not Garland. I feel my face flush and have to look away. Claude. Lucette, you're tomato red again. It's adorable. Lucette. Shocked. Oh, a bit of Lucette x Garland teasing. Fair enough. Like, you know, obviously I don't ship it. I like the canon ships. But if someone did ship it, I can see them being deeply excited about that scene, and that makes me happy for them. Lucette, shocked. I cross my arms over my rapidly beating heart again and force a scowl on my face. Lucette, aloud. No, I was just thinking about what Garland could do. Lucette, thinking to herself. Something simple, like when Karma kissed my hand, I... ... Garland kissing Jurian's hand is probably not a good idea. Maybe he could do what Claude and I did that one day in town. He can buy her some food and they can just... I love that Lucette is just running through all of the nice things that Karma has done for her and has yet to realize that's what she's doing. I'll admit, while I ship Jurian Jurlan, I would like a Garland route. Yeah, now that you mention it, the only reason I don't ship it is because there's not a route for it, and so there's no writing to support it. But, like, if there was a route for Garland, I'd totally take that. I like the night routes. Yeah, I can totally get behind that. I'd love for there to be a Garland route. Anyway. Yes, so Lucette continuing to run through all of the cute dates she's been on with Karma without realizing, probably either of them realizing that they were cute dates. Out loud. Lucette. Garland, have you ever just asked Jurian out for food? Garland. Not alone. Jurian is practical and she always eats at the tavern. She's also always on duty if she's available. Claude. I'll take her patrol shift 2 nights from now then, and tomorrow you can ask her out for a meal. We can make your invite a grand affair. We can drape banners on the walls, or I could give you a rose. Garland. Shocked. That sounds... Lucette. Like a terrible idea. Claude. I am offended. Garland. I feel like if I did something like that for Jurian, she would get embarrassed and punch me. Claude. Sounds like another lady that I know. Claude grins at me, but I just roll my eyes. Lucette. Garland, just ask her normally, and then when you are out and alone together, you can confess. Yep, I'm glad Lucette is here to temper, like, yes, of course Karma wants the super fancy version, but for Jurian and Garland, the simple version makes more sense. I think I would like a Garland route more than Rumple's or Karma's route, but I still love Jurian X Garland. Yeah, like, I'm liking Karma's route more than I initially thought I would once I, like, kind of understood the details of it. Like, you know, it's definitely like I said, it's growing on me, and there's like a lot of stuff that Karma is doing for Lucette that I'm really appreciating. So I'm liking I'm actually, I feel like it started slow for me, but I am starting to really like this route. So Garland, at this point, the theoretical Garland route would definitely outweigh a Rumple route for me, but that's because Rumple frustrates me to no end. I would be much more excited if the route I was going into next was for Garland and not Rumple, but I've never really liked the Casanova type. Like, I've seen it done well in Otome, but not often. Like, more often, I just do not tend to like the excessive flirty characters. Or not even the excessively flirty, but the ones that are constantly hitting on every woman they interact with, because that just gets annoying. And I feel like Karma wasn't that bad, so I didn't come into his route with as much of a negative. And at first I was like, this isn't really... But I like Karma as a character, and I expected I would like Karma as a character. And at first the route wasn't really doing it for me, but, like, now that we're starting to really get into, like, their like, you know, sharing more of their, like, authentic selves with each other, I am liking it. And it's hard to say if I'd like a Garland route better, because there isn't one. So, sadly. But yes, no, I love Jurian Garland, and I think it would be super cool to have a Garland route, but then in every other route, he ends up with Jurian. That's, you know, that's how routes work in Otome games. Anyway, Lucette. I already read that part. Just ask her normally, and then when you're out and alone, you can confess. Claude. And we'll make sure you have the time to do it. I'll purposely come late to practice tomorrow night, so you can ask her out for that date. How does that sound? Garland. You two really think I can do this? Lucette. You just have to ask the question. Whatever follows will at least be an answer. Garland. Tomorrow night, then. Claude. Good man. I'm sure it will go swimmingly. Garland. Or I could drown. Lucette. You won't drown, Garland. Garland excuses himself with a nervous smile before Claude turns to me expectantly with a mischievous grin. Claude. Now, Lucette, we'll come here early tomorrow and spy on them. We need to scope out a good spot. Yes! I'm here for it! Oh, come on. Like, when you have friends and they're clearly into each other and you finally convinced one of them to confess to the other one, like, yeah, you want to watch. Like, normally I wouldn't condone spying and eavesdropping, but this is a case where I'm like, yeah, it's harmless. Lucette. Spy on them? Claude. Of course! We need to make sure that our efforts pay off. Lucette. I don't think we should. Claude. You don't want to see how it plays out? Okay, fair. Lucette's not wrong. The thing I just said where I think it's harmless... I also think personality-wise, I'm a little more like Karma than I am like Lucette, which actually might also explain why I like Karma's route more than... more than some might. I mutely shake my head, unable to put my emotions into words. Oh, yep, no, she's right. Yeah, it depends on the people, because, like, maybe the other reason why I think that's harmless is because if I found that people were spying on me because they thought I'd have a cute moment, it wouldn't bother me. And, like, I think I get that same read off of Karma, or Claude, is, like, it wouldn't really bother him, and so he doesn't think anything of doing it, but Lucette is not wrong, thinking to herself, for some reason I'm imagining myself in Jurian's position. It feels too personal. And I think Lucette's right, and I think she'd be super uncomfortable with being spied on, and similarly, I think she's right that Jurian would be super uncomfortable with being spied on. And that's a fair point, and a good reason to not do it, even if I am disappointed, because I would love to see the moment when Garland asks her out, but I don't think Lucette is wrong. Claude's likeliness suddenly springs to mind, and I feel my face grow hot again. Ah, yes, because she's trying to imagine herself in Jurian's position, and the other person she imagines with her is, of course, Claude. Claude. Lucette, you've been oddly out of it today. I mean, oddly, come on, you know what she's out of it from, but, like, I honestly think she's been surprisingly normal for everything that she's been emotionally going through. Claude reaches out a hand towards me, then abruptly pulls away. I stare as he smiles at me, almost sheepishly. The conversation between us dies, and we return to the Marchen. Days passed, and though I did not spy on the conversation between Jurian and Garland, I noticed Garland has been smiling from ear to ear during his practice with Claude recently. I can only assume that his confession went well. Claude took the patrol shift tonight, and as I lie in bed, I am restless. Well, okay. Sounds like the asking her out to dinner went well, and now we will see where it goes from there. Every time I watch Claude practice with Jurian and Garland, I'm reminded of the palace, of Fritz. I wonder how Fritz is doing. Is he still practicing with the other knights? My thoughts darken as I recall the kidnappings. Continue to think to herself. Claude had to save me every single time. He got injured saving me. Unable to sleep, I slip out of bed and make my way to the reception room. The night air is cool, and no one stops me from standing just outside of the Marchen. Lucette, thinking to herself. I cannot just sit back and do nothing anymore. I have to act. Garland smiling. Yes, that sounds very cute. That I love that he's just been like all smiles. He and Jurian are really adorable. Yeah, 100% agree. They are very cute. Lucette, thinking to herself. I cannot just sit back and do nothing anymore. I have to act. I do not want Claude to get hurt because of me again. Eventually, I see Claude approach. He looks tired and is moving more slowly than usual, but when he sees me, his lips quirk into a smile. Claude. Lucette, what are you doing out here tonight, love? Lucette, shocked. Love instead of... Lucette, thinking to herself. Love instead of darling? That's new. Out loud. Hello, Claude. Claude, shocked. Lucette, thinking to herself. His face is dark red again. Claude. Silence. If you're using my real name, I suppose you've come to ask for something serious. Lucette, thinking to herself. How could he know that? Out loud. I do need to ask something of you. Claude. Well, if you need a shoulder to cry on, I'm right here, love. Lucette. What? Claude. Oh, is this not about... Never mind. Lucette. I'm asking if you will be my instructor. For some reason, I seem to have caught Claude off guard. He stares at me for a few moments. Claude. What? Lucette. I want to learn how to use the sword, and I want you to be my instructor. Claude's expression becomes uncharacteristically serious. Claude. I'd rather you didn't learn how to use a sword. Lucette. I do not want you to have to keep protecting me. Claude. I don't mind protecting you. Lucette. I do. Claude sighs and shakes his head. Alright, I'm on Lucette's side here 100%. I can kind of understand where Claude is coming from on the, like, I don't think it's, she shouldn't be able to take care of herself. I think it's, if once you are, you know, putting yourself in a position where you're in a sword fight, you're putting yourself in a position to get really badly hurt, and it would be easier for him to protect her and make sure she never gets hurt if she wasn't doing her own sword fighting. But I'm also on Lucette's side. Like, Claude would like to always be there, but he can't always be there, and so her being able to protect herself would be really, really good. And also, I would like to sometimes protect myself, and not always have you have to do it. And besides, what if you get really hurt? It'd be really nice if I could then step up and protect you. So, the fact that Lucette starts practicing swordplay is one of the things I like in Karma's Root. Yeah, 100%. Like, I am really on board with Lucette learning to protect herself. And learning the sword. Like, that's awesome to me. Claude sighs and shakes his head. Claude, princesses shouldn't be using swords. Lucette, I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. Claude, you are. Lucette, I do not want you to get hurt again when I could do something about it. Claude, silence. Lucette, teach me, please. Claude. Once again, he flushes. It seems to be an instant reaction, and it is both amusing and endearing. I agree, it is pretty cute. Claude, it won't be easy. Lucette, I wasn't expecting it to be. Claude stares at me for a long time before finally letting out a heavy sigh. Claude, fine, I'll train you. Lucette, shocked. Claude, you won't learn in a day, but I can teach you the essentials. You can use one of the knight's training swords. Lucette. Aw, Lucette's cute little smile. Yay. He will not regret it, if for no other reason than seeing her smile like that. Lucette. Thank you. Claude. Music to my ears. Meet me in the clearing in 10 minutes. Lucette. 10 minutes? What? Claude. You said you wanted to train, so we will. Don't expect me to go easy on you. Lucette. But aren't you tired? Thinking to herself. He looked exhausted when he came in, and now he wants to train? Claude. Already trying to get out of training? Lucette. I am not. Claude shakes his head, but he is smiling. I'll see you there in a few minutes, love. Also, him using love as a sentence thing makes me feel better about giving him something that veers slightly close to a British accent, but is not quite. Moonlight spills through the leaves, illuminating the forest with gentle light. You know, honestly, he's from a whole other kingdom. I probably could have been giving him a full-on British accent this whole time, but accents are not that easy, so I will forgive myself for not doing a full accent. Long minutes pass, and as I stand in the clearing, I begin to feel restless. Lucette, thinking to herself, it isn't like Claude to be late. Is he tending to his injury? I hear a rustling in the leaves and turn immediately to see what the disturbance is, but the minute I do, I am pulled back by a strong force and my world goes dark. Lucette, shocked. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is karma. Before I can scream, I hear, actually I was pretty sure, but now I'm like, what if it's not? Well, we'll find out momentarily. Before I can scream, I hear a gentle voice in my ears. Yes, okay. It is karma. Voice. Lesson 1, Lucette. When apprehended by an enemy that you can't see, remain calm and use your 5 senses to judge how best to get the upper hand. Lucette, thinking to herself, this voice is coming from right behind me. Okay. This is a cute scene, but oh my, that scene looks a little spicier than it is actually.
Oh my.
Sorry, anytime I feel the need to say oh my, I feel like I must soundboard. I have the soundboard. I have the power. I must use it. Lucette, thinking to herself, Claude? I become aware that this is the closest he's ever been to me, with my back pressed to his chest like this. Claude. Panicking disorients the mind. That is why you must remain cool under any circumstance. Lucette, thinking to herself, how could I not panic? Any normal person would panic. Still, well, and that's the thing, yes, he's totally, like, you panic, your initial reaction is panic, but then you have to, like, remove yourself from the panic to be able to act. Still, I try to force myself to be calm. Claude. Lesson 2. Enemies will often let down their guard when they think they have the upper hand. Catch your opponent off guard by remaining calm and locating this weakness with your senses. I try to calm myself as Claude instructs, and I feel it is a bit easier, but only because I know it is Claude. Lucette, thinking to herself, an opening. I move as quickly as I can, stepping forward so that I can swing an elbow back at Claude's stomach. Before that happens, Claude has pulled me back to him, closing whatever distance I had put between us. In the process, he moves his hand from my eyes to my mouth. I can once again see the forest, but my words are muffled beneath his hand. Claude. Another thing to remember, you won't always be able to catch your enemy off guard by throwing punches or hits at them. Your opponent will usually be stronger than you, Lucette. Remember what I said about a weakness. Enemies will often let their guards down when they believe that they are winning. Just like I have. Lucette, thinking to herself, an opening? A thought occurs to me as I glance around me and then down at Karma's bandaged hand. Lucette, thinking to herself, Karma's bandaged hand is over my mouth. Is this an opportunity or a trick? I think the right answer is to bite his hand, but then I feel bad because his hand is injured, and I'm like, I don't want to bite his hand. But I mean, I think that is a good opening, and it will super distract him, and that's probably the right choice. Claude, what will you do, princess? What kind of tactic would remove you from my grasp? And the options are bite his hand or topple him, and I think find the weakness, which is his injured hand, and I'm gonna try biting his hand, but if it goes really badly, I am prepared to reload. Lucette, thinking to herself, I'm going to feel terrible about this, but I have to try. I try to shift my head to get enough space to bite down, and even Claude cannot hold me completely still as I squirm. Eventually, the hand over my mouth moves just enough for me to open my mouth, but I falter. Lucette, thinking to herself, I cannot bite the hand that I injured. Unable to do anything else. Oh, I'm glad that she actually, in some ways I'm really glad, because that would have really been like, no, but his hand is, oh, okay. Unable to do anything else, I mutely shake my head, and I hear Claude groan. In one swift motion, he pushes me down to the ground, pinning my hands by my head as he frowns at me. Claude, you're not even going to try and find an opening. I glare at him. Lucette, I am not going to bite your hand. Claude, shocked. Bite my hand? I didn't even think of that. Lucette, but you made it obvious. You put your hand over my mouth. Claude, I'd meant for you to try moving my hand. Pushing back a person's thumb usually causes their grip to loosen. Lucette, how was I supposed to know that? Yeah, no, alright. This was the correct answer, because it was, I agree with her, it was a very obvious answer for a weakness. I love that it turned out that she couldn't actually bring herself to do it. And then the explanation is because I couldn't bring myself to bite your hand, and Claude's like, oh, I didn't even think of that one, nice. Claude, experience is the best means of practice, as they say. I have a complaint about that particular lesson, but I withhold it. Claude, that was a pretty good attempt, love, but not good enough, I'm afraid. Lucette, I wasn't expecting you to come at me like that. I was expecting sword practice. Claude, you weren't expecting a man to kidnap you in the alleyway, were you? I glare up at him, unable to say anything because he is right. Claude, you're oddly quiet. Lucette, it is hard to find an opening to hurt you when you are not really my enemy. Claude, silence. He does not move, but continues to stare at me. His face is close to mine. Close enough to... Lucette, thinking to herself, close enough to what, exactly? Ah, Babby, inexperienced with romance, thinking, I want to kiss him, but not fully thinking that? That's kind of cute. Claude, Lucette, do you trust me to protect you? Lucette, that's not the point. I need to be able to protect myself. Claude, because you're planning on investigating the witches on your own. Lucette, no, I want to be able to protect myself because I do not want you getting hurt protecting me. Claude, silence. Claude leans down and I can feel his hair at my cheek. For a few moments, everything slows to a stop and all I can hear is my heartbeat and his slow breathing. Claude, once you set your mind to something, you don't let go, do you? Claude pulls away from me before I can respond, and he's standing again, offering me a hand. Karma. Let's get started with some sword work, then. Lucette, thinking to herself. The pleasant smile is back on his face. I can never tell what he's thinking at times like this. What are you really like, Claude? Okay, chapter 7 is Thorny Rose, which I'm sure is about our Claude. All right. So I am having a lot of fun with this, and I like having, there were some nice, cute, romantic bits between both Lucette and Karma and Jurian and Garland. I look forward to hearing more about how the date went in the next chapter, hopefully. And like I said, I'm really liking Lucette and Rod. Not sorry, I liked Lucette and Rod's route, and I am actually really liking how Lucette and Karma's route is shaping up. I think it's becoming increasingly cute, and that's making me happy. So yeah, so I look forward to more chapters. Thorny Rose maybe has something to do with his rose tattoo. Yeah. The more I think about this, the more I'm pretty sure he's got a Beauty and the Beast style curse, because like the rose, like the rose in the jar in the Beauty and the Beast, he's got the rose tattoo on his chest, and like that. I wonder if there's something about the rose that changes or alters or has direct relation to his curse. So yeah, there's more to find out. And yeah, really, I love this game. Like, I've said that many times, but like, I genuinely do. It's always such a pleasure to like play chapters. So thank you so much for anyone who stuck around, and especially thank you, Ice Army. It's always, I really love, like, I really enjoy. Thank you for coming to my Twitch channel and watching these live. It's been really fun to have the back and forth, and I really appreciate you coming in and chatting. Bye! Yep, so I will be back at it next week for Cinderella Phenomenon, and for anyone interested in catching other streams, my next official stream, well, I'm probably going to do some random stream tomorrow, but my next official definite stream is Wednesday. I'll be playing Minecraft around 5 p.m. So, wow, thank you. Oh, well, I mean, thank you. So, yeah, this is just really nice, and I hopefully will see you next Monday. All right, everyone, bye!